Besama Ab, Wawald, Mafeskadu, Sadawam like Amen. Besama Ab, Wawald, Mafeskadu, Sadawam like Amen. Name of the Father, name of the Son, name of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Blessings and love and good morning, and hope everyone's doing good and have a blessed weekend. So today's chapter is 1 Kings 4. Blessings, love, give thanks for these few words. King Solomon was king over all Israel. These were the princes who he had: Azariah, the son of Zadok the priest, Eliharoph, and Ahijah, the son of Shisha, scribes, Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, the recorder, Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the army. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Azariah, the son of Nathan, was over the officers. Zabud, the son of Nathan, was chief minister, the king's friend. Ahisha was over the household, and Adariam, the son of Abda, was over the men subject to forced labor. Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel who provided food for the king and his household. Each man had to make provision for a month in the year. These were their names: Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker in Machaz in Shalbim, Beth-Shemesh and Elon Beth-Hanan, Beth-Hezod and Araboth, Socker and all the land of Hepher belonged to him. Ben-Amidab in all the height of Dor, he had Tephath, Solomon's daughter, as wife. Bana, the son of Ahilud, in Tanakh and Megiddo, and all Beth-Shem, which is beside Zarathan, beneath Jezreel, from Beth-Shem to Abdul-Melor, as far as Jokmeam. Ben-Geber in Ramoth Gilead, the towns of Zer, the sons of Manasseh, were all in Gilead, belonged to him, and the regions of Argob, which is in Bashan. 60 great cities with walls with bronze bars belonged to him. Ahinadab, the son of Iddo, in Manaim, and Ahimaaz in Naphtali. He also took Basemath, the daughter of Solomon, as wife. Bana, the son of Hushai, in Asher Bealoth. Jehoshaphat, the son of Parah, in Issachar. Shammai, the son of Elah, in Benjamin. Geber, in the son of Uri. In the land of Gilead, the country of Shihon, the king of the Amorites, and of Og, king of Bashan, and he was the only officer who was in the land. Judah and Israel were numerous as the sand which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry. Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the river to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provision for one day was 30 cors of fine flour, 60 measures of meal, 10 head of fat cattle, 20 head of cattle out of the pastures, and 100 sheep, in addition to deer, gazelle, roebucks, and fattened fowl. For he had dominion over all on this side of the river, to Tishpa, even to Gaza, over all the kings on this side of the river, and he had peace on all sides around him. Judah and Israel lived safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. These officers provided food for King Solomon and all who came to the king's table, every man in his month. They let nothing be lacking. They also brought barley and straw for the horses and swift steeds for the place where the officers were, each man according to his duty. God gave Solomon abundant wisdom, understanding, and breadth of mind, like the sand that is on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than all men, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, Heman, Kalkol, and Dada, the son of Mahal, and his fame was all in the nations all around. He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He spoke of trees and of cedars that is in Lebanon, even to the hyssop that grows out of the wall. He also spoke of animals, of birds and creeping things, and of fish. People of all nations came to hear the wisdom of Solomon, sent by all kings of the earth who had heard his wisdom. For these few words I give thanks, blessings and love. So 2 parts of this chapter. The first part is really laying out the structure of Solomon's court and his government, if you like, including his army and the people, the judges, the priests, and that kind of, that overall structure and who's heading them up. So we're getting a sense of a very organized court and a Solomon who has very clear thinking of how he wants the nation to be run. The second part of this chapter is really painting a picture of Judah and Israel as now a people that are unified, and it says that they lived in safety and a place of peace. And it says Judah and Israel lived safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree. And so this is painting a place that's quite prosperous, this peaceful, this calm, lacking in chaos. And this is all due to the next bit that it talks about, which is Solomon's wisdom that God has granted in divine grace. And people from all over the lands now have heard of Solomon's wisdom, and kings of far off lands are sending their people to hear Solomon speak and to learn from him. And it's a very great wisdom and a great gift that the Yahweh has given Solomon, but he's using it to good effect for peace in his country and for peace among the nations and spreading his knowledge and his understanding. So it's a very interesting chapter because it shows here that Solomon's putting his gift to good use, to godly work, and also showing the structure that is laid down for his people to follow. So there's no ambiguity about what's expected from the people because he's got these heads of these different departments. Solomon is unsurprisingly presented as a Christ-like figure, as a typology, as many of the great leaders in the Bible are. And one of the very strong reasons for this, not only for his wisdom, but also for the 12 officers that he has around him, which is providing him with food and sustenance over the 12 months. And that structure alone is seen to be a Christ-like structure with Jesus and the 12 disciples. Now, when I was studying this chapter, and also reading it, but also reading the Orthodox Study Bible, I was kind of thinking, like, what more is there to say about this? And interestingly, the Orthodox Bible doesn't have any footnotes at all about this chapter. So it kind of gets taken at face value, and that's fine. One thing it did make me think about, though, was a document called the Fetha Nagast. The Fetha Nagast is an Amharic word meaning Law of the Kings, and it's written in the 12th century in Ethiopia, and it was updated by the Emperor Haile Selassie I in 1930 when he brought in a new constitution of the Fetha Nagast for the country, and it wasn't titled the Fetha Nagast anymore, but it drew very heavily on the Fetha Nagast. So the Fetha Nagast is a document that was very similar to this. It was looking at how the church was being run in the country, but also how the church laws then coincided with the rest of the kind of secular laws in the country. But the church is very much central to that because it's an extremely religious society. In 1930, when the emperor brought in a new constitution, he did update some of the laws from the Fetha Nagast that he said were particularly brutal and outdated. So, for example, if people were caught doing certain crimes, they'd have their limbs cut off and amputated, and he thought those weren't really befitting the modern times. So he still gave them equal punishment, but it no longer related to the cutting off of limbs, etc. There are certain things like that he updated, but the Fetha Nagast was still undoubtedly central to that new constitution, and it continued to play a very influential role in Ethiopia, arguably to this day. I'd like to read, while I've got the time, the preface to the 1968 edition, because the emperor went to great pains to get it republished for different audiences in his country. So I'll just read this now. It's not too long. The long and great history of our country demonstrates that our people have both administered and lived according to the law. Our people were first ruled by Mosaic law, and after the advent of Christianity to Ethiopia, they came later to be governed by the Fetha Nagast, a work combining both spiritual and secular matters, the former part pertaining to the spiritual and the latter to the temporal affairs of our people. The Fetha Nagast has been venerated, supported and applied by both the government of our empire and by the church. The names of scholars learned in this law are famous in the history of Ethiopia, particularly since the reign of Emperor Zara Yaqub, when both the study and the enforcement of the Fetha Nagast began. By the providence of the Almighty, this bulwark of law was preserved for our people. Venerated for many centuries, it provided our people with an invaluable source of legal principles. When we ascended our imperial throne and enacted a penal code compiled on the basis of the Fetha Nagast, we made all necessary provision for the printing of the Fetha Nagast, in order that it might be available to our people. Owing, however, to the invasion of our country by the enemy, the copies which had already been printed but not distributed were burnt together with the printing press. When, with the assistance of the Almighty, we returned victorious to our country, and subsequently made provision for the codification of our laws, realizing that those who had helped us in the process of codification had availed themselves of the provisions of the Fetha Nagast, we ordered that its text be printed together with a commentary therein, and offered to our people for their assistance. We are pleased that this great work, for so many centuries the basis of law and the administration of justice in our country, has now, under the auspices of the Faculty of Law of the university to which we have given our name, been translated into English, so that it may be known to scholars of all other countries. No modern legislation which does not have its roots in the customs of these whom govern can have a strong foundation. The efforts which have been made by the Faculty of Law of Haile Selassie University to disseminate the knowledge not only of the new codification but also of the historically rooted legal practices of Ethiopia, which by the providence of the Almighty we have preserved and which are the source of our new legislation, is befitting and deserving our warmest approval. Given at our Imperial Palace in Addis Ababa this 29th day of August 1968, and as signed Haile Selassie I, Emperor. So yeah, very interesting preface there, which outlines the context of the Fetha Nagast. And what I should have said earlier that I don't think I said is that the Fetha Nagast is very directly taken its laws from Moses, from the book of Exodus, through Deuteronomy, Numbers, and also Solomon. So it's that continuation of the biblical law. And as His Majesty says in here, the Mosaic law, Moses' law, and then he updates it in a modern context when he did his new penal code for the new constitution. I mean, chapter 1 talks about the church and what concerns it. Chapter 2, divine books of the Ethiopian Bible, the 81 books from which I'm reading now. Baptism and those who embrace it is number 3, and further chapters of the patriarchs, bishops, priests and deacons. So you can see how the church is very much central to this document, but it also speaks to the wider governing of society. So this was published in 1968 by Haile Selassie University in Addis Ababa. So we get here that continuation from these pages in 1 Kings 4 through to the modern day context of how Emperor Haile Selassie then governed Ethiopia in his time, and even preceding the emperor from the 12th century onwards. These documents from Moses and Solomon were enshrined within the Fetha Nagast, the law of the kings, which makes Ethiopia the country that it is today, with the Orthodox Church central. So blessings and love. Have a glorious day, and God willing, I'll be back with more tomorrow.